Hey everyone, Killpo1 here, with another Forever Winter video. Today, let's do a deep dive on the Euruskan Grabber on the new Underground Cemetary map. This map was brought into the game in the in-progress state in the October patch, and personally I love its aesthetic and design. However, this map also has a unique always present unit, that being the Grabber with a unique AI. The new AI for the Grabber I believe is a great first step, but currently has a bit too many quirks that add up to what's quite frankly an unfun experience, and I can only imagine a frustrating one for newer players. Let's go ahead and look at these quirks, starting with its lack of visual indicator of this unit's awareness. In the current game, for every other unit there are 3 states of awareness. There is a passive state, where the unit is either stationary or patrolling. There is the investigation state, indicated by a circle above the unit's head, and will have that unit attempt a path to whatever triggered it into this state, with its most often being from visually seeing an enemy or hearing one. And lastly, the aggro state, where the unit has maintained visual contact with an enemy for long enough to fill the circle's gauge and has begun combat, visually represented by a red diamond above that unit's head. The Grabber on this map has those 3 states, but none of the visual cues in the investigation and aggro state. This is somewhat rectified by the Grabber's unique soundtrack for when it's aggroed, along with the sound of it sprinting toward you to indicate that it's in the aggro state, but the investigation state has no indication. This can cause quite a bit of confusion on what you're doing to draw the dog's ire, as the circle gives direct feedback on what acts cause it to move from investigation to aggro. If they were to add visual indicators on the model along with sound effects for every state transition, it would be very helpful in receiving feedback as a player on what I'm doing to draw the dog's attention, while also promoting ambiance. The current lack of visual indication in tandem with our next point can lead to some very confusing scenarios, especially for newer players. The Grabber is always present on the map and it has map-wide awareness, meaning it reacts to a wide threshold of conditions across the map, and while I do not believe this includes map-wide sprinting, the Grabber does react to your gunfire throughout the map, even if you use a suppressor. That means any combat can quickly draw the Grabber's attention, and has it slowly but surely pathing toward you. In contrast, most units have a soft, what they typically patrol around, and a hard, a despawn trigger, limit on where they can go on a map. This functionally limits their awareness to a small area of the map, and helps you break contact from the enemy. Because the Grabber never despawns and the whole map is its hunting ground, it ends up never dropping aggro once it has it. Despite all of this, out of most of the items we'll discuss today in this video, this at its core is a pretty interesting feature. Just it being in tandem with all the other quirks right now makes it kind of overbearing, and I can easily see this being a baseline test for a new HK AI system. So far, we have a dog that has no indication it's in the investigation state, with it being incredibly easy to get into this state with gunfire, and no way of clearing its aggression state. Now, let's add the cherry on top, its improved one-shot threshold. In the prior patch, the one-shot threshold of the Grabber was 1000 HP, meaning that if you were at or below that threshold, the Grabber could essentially execute you with a one-shot kill animation that once you were in, you had no way of getting out of. This map variant of the Grabber has had this up to 2000, meaning that outside a high prestige bagman or massman, the Grabber will one-shot you if it catches you. You can probably start to imagine how unfair this feels with the 2 prior mentioned points, as the game quickly punishes you for not noticing things that are very hard to notice. It does feel like they're trying to make this map feel like a horror game, but we're missing half of the mechanics. In Alien Isolation, we have a game where the alien's a one-shot kill, it never catches you, but you're provided with plentiful tools and hiding spots to help avoid this creature. You have lockers to hide in, beds to hide under, and the alien itself is distractible with items. If the worst happens and you do obtain the attention of the alien, you still have tools available to you to prevent the one-shot kill, being the shotgun and flamethrower, buying you precious time to stun or force the alien to retreat, allowing you to essentially reset its aggro. The Forever Winter has none of that currently, and I'm not sure if it ever will, meaning that a one-shot mechanic just should not exist within the game with how aggressive this unit currently is, and how poorly it informs the player on its current state. Though I do feel there's an area to explore here, perhaps with quicktime events or something along those lines involving breaking free or staggering the dog during its grabbing animation. With the lack of visual and auditory cues in the change of the grabber's state, its map-wide senses, and a mechanic that one-shots most characters, and one-shots all new characters, this tends to lead toward a frustrating experience where it feels like a player has lost a lot of agency. For me, these points are the big three regarding what makes the grabber quite unfun, but there are a few more points I want to highlight that, while aren't the most important, do add to the pain. 1. The dog remains unkillable, with only a brief stagger window like every other unit has, making it relatively ineffective for single players. While I don't think its unkillable nature should change at the time, a longer stagger window that takes more damage to activate and drops it out of its aggro state would be immensely helpful. 2. There is a weird mid-map barrier between the atrium and the sewers that the dog cannot seem to cross, even with the doors being open. However, when the dog gets stuck pathing, it can be reset and respawned by any incoming damage, including by NPCs, causing issues such as it respawning in unexpected areas, confusing players even more, and occasionally instantly one-shotting them. I imagine this is probably a bug, and that the grabber is supposed to have free reign of the map outside of the area you lock it into. If they went about nerfing the grabber, I would think for consistency's sake the grabber should have free reign over the map, and I really like the concept of doors being destructible, with some amount of effort from particular AI units like the grabber. 3. It being the only special unit on the map, and its omnipresent nature on both variants, creates a feeling of monotony, making it play and feel almost the same every time you go on the map. If this map is to be the survival horror map, I think there's a ton of creative space for the developers to lean into here, along the lines of Left 4 Dead with cyborgs, GTFO, or weird techno-oculate stuff with cultists just added in the game, or perhaps even leading into the realm of weird horror like SCPs. There's just a ton of cool space to explore. But yeah, for all of these reasons, I find the Underground Cemetery's grabber to be an interesting concept, but very rough and unfun right now, making the new map feel a bit tarnished. But probably it is a necessary step for the developers in exploring new AI patterns, for which we're all guinea pigs for. That's all for this video. Please share below your thoughts on the new grabber, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The algorithm gods demand it.